Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain. It's Faraz, and in today's episode, we are going to be getting our regular monthly Saito update with none other than Richard Parris himself. But before we do, if this is the type of content that you like, then don't forget to hit the subscription button below, drop a like on the video, and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. Come and join us over in Telegram. Plenty of crypto content being discussed there. And also, if you like live stream formats, then come and join me over on TikTok, where we have daily live streams discussing all things crypto. Now, let's get into it. Richard, welcome to the stream. Great to have you here. I thought it'd be wonderful to wrap up the end of the year with an update from.
Yeah, it's Saito. Been an amazing year, and as always, good to be back.
Good stuff. Well, let's dive in because there's plenty happening. But I think one of the main ones that might be on the community's questions, I would say, is with everything that we've been seeing with the Luna collapse, with FTX, and the contagion is still going on, and we see various actors, taking to stage, blaming one another. Has this had any impact in terms of on Saito? Because we see, a lot of organizations and projects that have had some exposure to these various assets, which then have obviously had a negative impact. Saito, in this instance?
I think, to address the kind of thing that gets people interested first, or that people are most concerned about, no, we've had basically zero exposure. We did have some treasury. We keep our treasury in different forms and places for security reasons and also just diversification. One fund did have some exposure to Luna, but we'd actually made more in returns than we lost on the Luna and taking the hit on Luna in that. So essentially, no. The project, we talk regularly about our roadmap. We've still got the kind of 3 to 5 years in front of us with current spend and treasury. I think, interestingly, probably more importantly, people are taking another look at blockchain because of these events, and there's a little bit of getting back to fundamentals, and that totally suits us. So the kind of thinking about what role should CEXs play in the industry, what sort of format should decentralization really take, what does it really mean, is this DeFi project I use really peer-to-peer decentralized, that's actually helping us. So it's been rough, obviously, because it's kind of taken the bear market and hit it on the head, but it's also meant that we've got a lot more oxygen, a lot more time, and a lot more genuine interest in what we're doing. So in the end, probably an upside for us if it weren't for all the kind of pain it's caused people in general.
Good. Well, that's always good to hear. So let's jump into development. So I can't help notice that Red Square is expanding. There's plenty going on. Let's talk about the usage. I mean, how's that coming along?
So I kind of keep an eye on things like size of traffic and so forth to make sure that the equipment and the team watching this, the equipment can handle volume and stuff, and it's growing. It's growing, exponentially. It's organic, proper growth. People are getting interested in coming along. It's not skyrocketed to be the next Twitter just yet, but it's certainly improving and on its way. And I think that's coincided with obvious community growth. I think anyone who's watching the industry is noticing that kind of boom from us, and I think that's been really cool because it's led to. It's a great place to interact. So one of the outcomes has been we start talking to people in a forum that is conducive to getting them more involved, and even had a few people come on and deploy new games. Someone created Cytomania, which is a kind of really interesting. It's like the old asteroid game, but you're shooting up different coins, trying to navigate. As well as we've got the Quake thing going on and a couple of solitaire games. Different community projects have come online, and that's the process of building something big and new, namely Red Square. And then also having these community projects come on board has given us a lot of insight into the developer experience on Saito. And that's kind of, if people are watching closely, they've noticed we've got a bit of a feature freeze on the main chain at the moment because we've taken some time to refactor significantly what we've built. So it'll be one of those unimpressive things to users, hopefully, because it will be a little bit more polished, cleaner version of what we have. But anyone who's trying to develop on the stack will have a far, far simpler time and we're really kind of hoping that can lead to a new generation of stuff on Saito.
I think it's one of the best ways to sort of almost not clean up but to speed up development in a way, because you are, like you said, you've got various communities coming on board deploying their own as well, and having a look at the code, and then from that you obviously get suggestions, improvements, some which you would take on board, some which potentially you don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, David and I both come from startup / small business. We've started up and we've gone through small business phases into growth, and so we're just very aware that there's a huge field of dreams, build it and they will come kind of mentality in the industry generally. So people build these actually quite phenomenally engineered chains. Like, you won't see a lot of engineering as well done as the Near guys have done, but there's still a focus on, well, we'll make this ecosystem and people will just come. And we're very differently minded, and we're a very small team, and we look to building things that people will use and discovering. It's a very lean, classic startup approach of, we'd actually tried social before with the posts feature in Arcade, and we got it wrong. It wasn't done in a way that people liked, but it taught us some stuff. And then with Red Square, we'd learned some very definite things to do differently. And you're right, that's a great way to move ahead, because you're building things that people like, and they might be imperfect, but you're getting immediate feedback. And the turning point with Red Square was the community started using us and telling us what they thought, complaining, which is brilliant, because nothing better than knowing people click this button.
No, exactly. Nothing better than fail fast and continue development. Now, the other thing, interestingly enough, though, is during these times in the market, many people come together, and I think Arcade is one of the great examples, because it allows people to play, foster community growth. I see that you're also expanding out to Super Mario as well. I mean, what's the latest there?
You've noticed.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting, because when David proposed this, I was kind of like, what's he on about? But we talked about it for a while, and it kind of pushed a lot of buttons I had in the space of kind of, one of the reasons we're doing Saito is empowering individuals on the network. And what you see is a really cool way to play old Nintendo cartridges. And when you start to think about it, you think, well, why is that interesting, other than playing the game, which is enough, really. But it's because we can make a lending library. So we can now allow people to get further use out of something they own. Right? We're not kind of breaking any rules or doing anything we shouldn't. We're actually working really, really hard to make sure that what we're doing is making sure users can exercise the ownership rights of something they have, and we can make it a DRM system that really works for the user. And that got me really interested, because I used to work in scientific publishing in a previous life, and in that space there's a lot of contested stuff about who owns the product. Is it the university, that the author or the publisher? And I always saw the authors basically getting jammed in the middle of these great big machines and spat out. And I think the same is true. There's a lot of people paying for their Nintendo cartridge. We're paying for the game via subscription on the newer implementations, when they actually own the game in a box in a cupboard. It's ridiculous. And people feel almost guilty to try and get around, like having to pay that subscription to play a game that by rights they're allowed to play. So I think this kind of hits a couple of Saito points about using PKI to give users equal footing with companies, and that's really cool. Along with the fact that I was just chatting to someone, I think on a Twitter space the other day, and they were playing Mario with an old high school friend or a junior school friend across the country using Saito video chat at the same time. And I was like, now that's just letting that happen made me happy. I was like, that's really cool.
But it's progress, isn't it? You're kind of seeing the fruits of your labor almost there, kind of actually being used the way it's supposed to be used, which I think is amazing.
Right, absolutely.
And it helps with community growth. And talking about community growth, let's talk about community, because I don't know if it's me, but my Twitter in general has been popping off lately with lots of stuff around Saito in general, which is always a good thing to see. But there's quite a lot happening in terms of community growth over at Saito, right?
Yeah, it's going off. The other day, I have the Saito official Twitter. I'm logged into that on my phone just to monitor things and see what's going on, and respond to anything that's really important. A few of us do. And I so sometimes end up in that. I have to remember before I tweet. Am I tweeting a Saito? I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
if it's my
Which account?
breakfast. Saito had great eggs Benedict this morning. But it was funny because that's obviously hugely Saito. It's a big wall of red
Mm.
squares. And I woke up the other day. I was just sort of doom scrolling over breakfast type thing, and I thought I must be in the official account. And then I realized it's my personal one. It's just there's so much Saito activity going on that even my personal accounts become essentially
Yeah.
entirely a red wall, with occasionally some personal things like football tweets or something coming
Yeah.
through. But
Well,
it's like,
it is the season. It is the season. So we've got a few things kicking
yeah.
off, right? We've got the meme gallery. How's that coming along?
Well, meme gallery is just great. I mean, it's wonderful to go through the
Yeah.
nostalgia of the different memes and stuff that we've had in the community, but it also just shows the creativity. I think you can see something about not just the caliber of the project, but I'm super proud of the tone. The kind of the ideas people bring. It's really it's a cool place full of people bringing good ideas to the table. It's silly at times, but I really appreciate the kind of tone and quality of those memes, and you can see it kind of across the board in like the content on Red Square as well. People really appreciate having it and seem to put great stuff up there.
So you touched on Twitter Spaces earlier,
Yeah.
and it's clearly another great social channel for outreach. How's that coming along?
Well, it's funny because I was anti Clubhouse back in the day because
I
I
remember
didn't have an
Clubhouse.
iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm an Android person, and it just annoyed me that they didn't even bother with an Android app. But it turned out the first time I did a Twitter space, I really liked the format and thought to myself, we really should do more of those. They're a
Mm.
great way of getting a community involved and talking. And that was on a third party AMA, I think. But someone in our community again just organized a chat with some community members the other day, and it was really fantastic. And you can see like the recordings had huge views
Yeah.
and is going around, and we're getting a lot of feedback that hey, we should do this regularly. So we're looking at an opportunity to do that more regularly. And yeah, it's just really positive to have those kind of interactions and to see the kind of real eagerness to kind of get into what we're doing and to kind of understand better where we're at, where we're moving. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I think we'll try and push ahead with more of that kind of thing over
It's
the next few
it's
months.
it's a great way to tap into new audiences as well, because some people do sort of religiously scroll through and see which spaces are currently active, and from there they kind of get
Yeah.
introduced and then suck down the rabbit hole
Well,
of
I think the way it turns
Twitter.
into essentially a recording, so it becomes an accidental
Yeah,
podcast. Right?
exactly.
So people have a lot. What seems to have happened is a bunch of people have heard about it after the fact and
Yeah.
have listened to it and then recommended it on. And so I can't guarantee that we could regularly produce great content that's getting that much attention, but I'd hope we could come close, and that's something that the community seems to really appreciate.
Also, community, Discord. How's Discord coming along?
Well, Discord's been a little bit quiet. It had some champions in the community, and then that kind of faded. That was also kind of around launch and things. So there's obviously that launch bump. But I think with I kind of live in Telegram, which is very standard for I think people in the industry. But there's a few guys out there who are really keen to get Discord back up and running, and there are real advantages to it. It's a better organized space, so we can do a much better job of like flagging our language communities so that people can find the French or the Turkish group really easily, and that we can have dedicated channels for sort of tech talk and humor and stuff like that. So I think I'm really glad to see that's happening, and that's another thing that's happening kind of without direct drive from taking time off David or my own developers hands. It's a community driven affair, and we're really appreciating it. So
Fantastic. Well, look, Richard, as always, I super appreciate you coming on and giving us our monthly update on Saito, because we all want it, we love
pleasure.
it, we need it.
Yeah, pleasure as always, and good. Well, happy New Year to everyone who'll probably catch up with us next in the new year.
100%.
But yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Richard. We'll catch up in the new year.